I see y'all in the chat. We are live. In case you are confused and wondering who I am, my name is Antonio Bryce. I am the creator of the comic book series brand. We are currently on Indiegogo. We have raised nearly $75,000 thanks to the kindness of good folks such as yourself. We've got the preview link to the first 21 pages of the comic book in the description in case you are interested and want to check it out there. Me and Kanan would really appreciate your support. But hey, I've also got another book in the description. This one looks very intriguing. It's a project called Nora Saga. It's through Allegiance Arts and Entertainment. And this guy, I have been fascinated by his career for a few years now. I love his style and his colors are amazing. I am very thrilled to have him here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kelsey Shannon.
Hello.
Kelsey, how are you, sir? Thank you for coming. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, dude, it's been a long time coming, man. I remember I was like, man, when is he going to ask me to be on his show? And then one day he's like, when are you going to come on my show? And I'm like, dude.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Everybody's been here. It's like Cecil's been here, Malin. Yeah, it's all been here. So I need to get Anna on. I need to get that Star Wars girl on.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story going on over there. Hey, definitely worthy of a show, all on her own.
So let me. One of the things that I really wanted to ask you, and I wanted to dig. I've got like 6 boxes of comic books in here, but I was trying to go through my collection. It's so many of them. I was wanting to dig it up and show you. I actually own, which I believe is your very first piece of printed work. I think it's Arachnus. Man, yeah, I have it. I have like the first. I've got like issue 0, 1, 2, and 3. I don't know which one to start. Yeah, because I've got.
Yeah, number 3, page 1. Yeah, I was hanging out with those guys in Oregon during that whole Image boom, and they were those the Ortiz brothers. They were the little side, making cash off the Image boom. There was a bunch of guys around the edges, including Ethan with Cyberfrog. He was right on the edge. So these guys were like that,
I was like, well, how did it? So you just did that the first? So you didn't do the whole book, or?
No, well, I just finished working like a year unloading trucks on the docks, and I worked 12 hours a night and saved up a bunch of cash. And then my dad was he's a welder, and he was working on the Super Collider out in Oregon. And I was trying to break into comics, just kind of getting my start. And I knew that Dark Horse is out there in Oregon. And so I saved up all my money and moved out there and literally was banging on the windows at the Dark Horse building to get people to come out and like talk to me. And it just didn't work. But so I started like looking in the phone book. I found Mignola. I would call him up and like talk to him. And
you were just able to call him on the phone.
Yeah, his number was in the phone book. It was good times back then.
I love it.
And it's very cool. I talked to him for a couple of years, actually. He was very nice to me to take the time to do that. But eventually I ran into the Ortiz brothers, and I was like, I'm trying to break in. Do you mind if I come and like talk to you guys? And they were like, yeah, come on. And they had their own like apartment, and they had like fancy computers, and they were playing like computer games and stuff. It was all like I was a poor kid from, the South. Seeing these guys with all this money from comic books, I was like, oh, this is it. Yeah. Of course, that never happened for me.
Well, yeah, that's interesting though, because I was like, man, you were after that, it seemed like you kind of started doing a lot of obviously indie stuff. I saw Gaijin Studios. I was like, how did that come? Because there was a lot of talent there. I even saw like Brian Stelfreeze. Oh yeah, and I love him.
Dude, Brian is my mentor, and he's again going back to the Ortiz brothers. They had a picture of this geisha that Stelfreeze had done, and I was like, that looks familiar because I had seen Psychops. I think was a book he did like early on, and then he was doing some like covers for was it the Batman not Legends of the Dark Knight, I forget, one of those Batman books he was doing covers for.
It was, yeah, Legends of the Dark Knight, yeah.
Yeah, so I knew his style, and they were like, "Oh, he's totally cool. We'll give you his number." So they gave me his phone number, and again, I was real bold back in the day. I just started calling him up, and Stelfreeze is one of those guys that if you got a question, if you want to learn, he will put all his attention onto teaching you everything you want. But you start farting around, he'll lose attention real quick. But he's such a great resource for talent, young talent. You want to learn anything, Stelfreeze is the man. But yeah, so I would call him up and talk to him and the other guys in the studio. And as I was kind of building up my career, and eventually he was like, "Hey, we got like an opening here if you, And I was like, "Are you asking me if I want to join Gaijin Studios?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah." So I drove all the way from, gosh, where was I? San Antonio to Atlanta, Georgia, Norcross. And stayed there for a while. That was good times. I learned so much.
So that's where you actually had to be in the area. You couldn't just fax. I guess it's not like today where you can be like in Rome and just fax files or whatever to people.
Well, that's part of the fun of being in a studio, especially with at the time it was Adam Hughes, Stelfreeze, Ellie Hamner, Carl Story, and Steen Wall. She was an excellent painter, and she pretty much took care of all of us. And occasionally people like Pearson would come in, Jason Pearson, Chris Sprouse popped in one day. I mean, you just met, Tony Harris. I hung out with those guys, Andrew Robinson over in Jolly Roger. They were in Macon, Georgia. And yeah, man, there's just so much talent there. And I just soaked up every bit of it that I can glean out of them. Yeah, so fun.
Yeah, I was like the amount of talent that they had. I was like they just like you just said, Adam Hughes. Like, I love Adam Hughes, and just man, they had so much. And that studio ran for about 20 years, or 19, 20 years. I was like, were you there up until the closing, or no?
I left a little before that because I was going one of my many sort of crisis of not consciousness, but crisis of identity, where I didn't know if I wanted to do comics, because I wasn't, I was going through a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, I see, I don't get to do what I want in comics. I gotta, cater to the whims of, the people who own this stuff and who are in control over it. And that was real demoralizing, when I had all this excitement for producing amazing stuff. And it was like, on one hand, you're being encouraged to do your best, and on the other hand, they're doing everything to prevent you from doing your best. So I was really struggling, and I didn't know if I wanted to be a part of it. And being a part of the studio and comics was very expensive in Atlanta, and I just bowed out. And eventually, I think Carl and his wife started a family, and they moved further out, and it got too hard to gather in one place. So that's the only reason they really disbanded. But I think we're all still kind of together at heart. We're all still, you Gaijin for life,
I love it, man. That's great. Now, when you like, if you check your name up on like Google or something like that, a ton of color work comes up, because like you do beautiful colors. One of the things I've mentioned this a few times, how like colors can make the difference on a lot of things. Like, I thought when I looked at the Brutus the Badass cover, the original, Donald DeLay did it, and I think he colored it himself originally. And when he put it up, I was like, okay, yeah. And then you colored it, and my God, the colors that you did on it, it had that, it looked like Lobo from like the 90s and stuff. I was like, oh my God.
I saw what he was doing. I was like, okay, he's doing he's got a toe dipped in the Beasley's world, the Biz, and he's got a toe dipped in like Trencher and the stuff that like Keith Giffen was doing. I know exactly what Donald is doing, and I know how to make this piece sing. It was way tougher than I expected, but yeah, it was a lot of fun working. I'm sure I'll get to do something with Donald again, but yeah, I thought every once in a while you'll find someone that you really somehow your just styles really connect with, and I think Donald is super talented, and I'd love to do something with him again.
Well, yeah, but I'm telling you that went from like a 6 or a 7 to like a 12, dude. I'm like, when I saw those colors, I was like, oh my God, this thing, it just looks incredible, because the art was already what it was, but the colors, that's one thing I noticed, when I lost the colorist that was going to work on Brand. And then all of a sudden, Kanan was real bummed out, because he was like, man, he said, I've seen a lot of people try to color my stuff, and it's hard to find someone like that can actually do the colors justice and everything. And so I tried out like a bunch of different. Now, remember, I contacted you. I sent you an email. You sent me a couple of contacts, and man,
connect. The timing was off, man, but that would have been blast,
dude, man. But man, then I found this guy. I found a guy, I got a couple samples back, and I found this guy, that wanted to remain anonymous. So we named him Kid Icarus. But when I sent Kanan his samples, he was like, that's the guy. He said, that guy is on the same level. And he's not cheap, but my God, when I show people pages that are colored from Brand, they just go nuts. So I know, that it just, like I said, I had to spend, it cost me a couple $100 paying guys to do samples and stuff like that. We just didn't have the right guy. So, it just, that's the thing. I would, and I love your stuff, man. It's like, I've been looking at it, for a couple decades. And so,
wow.
But how long so like I said, you got a ton of color credits, and then obviously you got some. What was it? There was an old book that you did called what was it? Bastard Samurai, I think.
Bastard Samurai, yeah, with Mike Olding.
Yeah, that pops up sometimes. Tell me about that project.
Well, that was like back in '99, 2000-ish, 2001. I was working at. What the hell was that place called? We were working on Jimmy Neutron, that movie.
The Nickelodeon movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was, I like Frazetta and Mignola and Frank Miller and all these guys. I'm a comic book guy, so being forced to draw these big-headed, cartoon, troglodyte-looking mongoloid kids. I don't know. It was just like, oh my God, I can't stand this. And so they had me doing all the comic book stuff. Like, it was looking at a comic book, so I'd do all that. So I was just really unhappy drawing that kiddie stuff, and I was really dying to get into comics. And this was when artists were just getting onto message boards. So like Shane Glines, who was one of the designers of a lot of the Warner Brothers stuff with Bruce Timm, he had started a message board called the Drawing Board. And that's where like Adi Granov started. It was me. It was Mike Olding was there. There was a ton of us that are huge. Cheeks. Sean Galloway was just starting his cartoony style.
Love his stuff. Yes.
It was a major like just singularity of like here's the new wave of getting your art out there, and we were all just drawing like mad. Every day we'd post new stuff and like, here, look at this. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, it was great. And so I saw Mike Olding, and I'd known his stuff from like Judge Dredd and Ship of Fools and things like that. And so I wrote him out of the blue, and I was like, hey, I love your stuff. I just wanted to, share some of my work. And, and he just was floored. He was like, he immediately came back. Was like, I got 2 projects. I want you to do one of them, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, one of them is something, I don't even remember what the other one was, but he's like, this one is Bastard Samurai, and it's this, and the writer of it is actually in Dallas near you, which is Miles Gunter. He's a good friend of mine. And we got together. I was like, okay, well, let's do that one. and we got together and just all three of us came up with it, and it was right before Samurai Jack also.
Yeah, because that's what I was like. It kind of. I was like, oh, is this like maybe a harder version of Samurai Jack?
Dude, I'm halfway through drawing the first issue, and I'm at Mr. Gaddy's with a friend of mine. Remember Mr. Gaddy's?
Yeah, there was one about a block and a half away from my house.
Yeah, I saw Jordan's last game at a Mr. Gaddy's, and we closed that place down because like all the staff. But at the end of it, we were just like, man, and I look around and it's just us and the staff like hanging out watching the game. But anyway, so I'm sitting at Mr. Gaddy's, and then I look up and it looks like the comic book I'm working on is on the TV, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I immediately was just like, oh God, we're going to get compared to this. But then, of course, the cartoon came out, and it blew my mind. The storytelling, the visual storytelling, so good. I didn't mind the comparisons,
No, I love Jindy Tartakovsky. I love his stuff. I know he actually did a little, I guess, some of the development stuff on like Powerpuff Girls and what was the Dexter's Lab. Then Samurai Jack is a masterpiece. Even when it had just won an Emmy when they announced that it was canceled. So it's like he won an Emmy, and then they was like, "Hey, the show's canceled," and then all of a sudden you were like, "What?" And then so they brought it back. So when after all these, several year hiatus, it finally came. Man, that last season when they finally closed everything out, it broke my heart, man. It was like you really cared about those characters. I mean, it was so good though. That last season was so good, but I was wanting Jack to get like this happy ending story, but it's just, and my God,
that new season, that very last one that they did. I saw the first episode with the like motorcycle. It was like I have such a vague recollection, but I need to finish it, so don't spoil it. I need to go back and watch that. Yeah, but I figured it was gonna have a happy ending anyway. So.
No, when he gets home, it didn't. You were like, wait a minute, everything's going perfect. Is like, and then he's like, he's about to get married and blah 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 blah, and everything happens, and I was heartbroken for Jack. I was just like, man, I thought. And he's, people was like, why didn't you just let him get married and have a happy ending and just live his life and have little samurai babies?
He's a tragic hero.
Yeah, and I was just, man, that ending just destroyed me though. I was just, but it's the animation, it didn't skip on anything. And, I'm an animation head. So like I think that's why I've been drawn to his stuff. I enjoyed like shows like the Boondocks, which I think Chuck Jones that worked on that,
Boondocks?
Yeah, it was like I might have the wrong.
Boondocks like LaShawn worked on that, LaShawn Thomas, and I worked on that for a minute.
Really?
Yeah, LaShawn was just it was right toward the beginning. He was taking over, I think. Like second season or something, and he wanted me in. I couldn't handle all the different people. Their animation. There's so many people that have to come in. But yeah, Boondocks, man. I wish I'd have stuck with it though, because that show just got so phenomenal after he got in there. LaShawn, man, he turned it around.
So hold on. To all you guys in the chat saying that I spoiled the ending of Samurai Jack, that shit's been on the air for like 2-3 years now. If you haven't watched it and it's been out for 3 years, that's a you problem. That's not me. Yeah. It's been out there, so like you can't say, "Oh, I love Samurai Jack," but I didn't watch the last season. I was like, I watched it. No, Samurai Jack was incredible to me. But I'm trying to remember. There was one of the art directors. I'll have to go back and look because they're bringing Boondocks back. That's what. And Aaron Magruder, that fourth season, he didn't have any involvement in it, and they cheaped out on the animation. They were doing it in Korea, but I guess they found a cheaper studio to animate that last season. And the jokes kind of fell flat in certain places and stuff. They still had all the voice actors and stuff, but it just wasn't. it just wasn't the same. And so to hear that, they're bringing it back and Aaron Magruder's actually going to be involved again.
Good.
Oh, that's what I was like. That's what I need to see. Cause I was like, Aaron Magruder, I mean, you still see all the YouTube videos with the Boondock stuff on it and everything. And I'm like, that's, and they just announced that, Jeff Smith's Bone was being picked up by Netflix. So that was, and I was like, that's been a long time coming. I was 16 when I read Bone the first time. So when, about 7 months ago, I reached out to Jeff Smith.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, dude. No, that took so long to set up. I think the only one it took, the next closest would be about 3 months for Steve Englehart. So I had contacted him in 2018, and like Steve kind of, he's kind of like, yeah, I'm retired from the business stuff. And I was like, yeah, but you're still Steve Englehart. People want to know about your career. Yeah, why would anybody want to talk to me? And it was just, we were going back and forth, and he was like, you know what, Antonio, you seem like a nice guy. I'll do it, man. I'll do it. And he came, and it was like 100 people in the chat, man. It was just people was asking. It was like people were hanging. I'm like, he hung out with me for like 2 hours. It was beautiful. I was like, this is a legend right here. And then then when I got Ann Nacini, I was like, I never thought I'd get Ann Nacini. I sent her an email. She's like a journalist now. She was working for some magazine or newspaper or something. And I was like, she was like, Antonio, I sent her the Steve Englehart interview. She was like, that was a good interview. I actually watched it while I was writing. And she was like, look, but my career was like, that was 30 years ago. It was like, nobody cares about that stuff. I was like, you still got a lot of fans, man. I was like, what are you talking about?
In fact, I would say that it should be growing because Zach's been like spotlighting, her stuff for so long now. And man, I've been a fan of hers since the Daredevil run with who was it? John Romita Jr. and who's Klaus Janson, I think. Was that Daredevil? Yeah.
Yeah. He was the anchor on that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then Typhoid Mary with
and they came out with that because I asked her. She had worked with Arthur Adams on the Long Shot miniseries, and I was like, man,
I didn't know that. Shoot.
Yeah. She was. It was her and Art Adams. She co-created Long Shot, and I was like, and I'd ask her, she'd be like, that was 30 years ago, dude. And it was even a point in the interview. She was like, you remember before we went on the air and I told you that a lot of this stuff you're going to ask me is like, oh. And I was like, yes, but I want to know. I want to know. And it was her birthday. And that was the thing. The stream took place on her birthday. And so when I sent her the link and she popped up, I was like, hey, happy birthday. She said, hey, don't say anything about my birthday when we get on the air. And I was like, oh, okay, my bad. All right, cool. So I hit the live button, and then all of a sudden people in the chat going, hey, happy birthday, Ann, happy birthday. And it was just like, I said, hey, Ann, I didn't say anything. And so she laughed a little bit. It was funny, but I was like, you just don't understand. People love you. Do you not understand that? It's like people love you and they want to talk to you and stuff.
That's what I find fascinating. And I'm sure it has to do with the lack of quality in the new stuff, but there's with cartoonist kayfabe and then Zach and then all these other people highlighting the great stuff that comics used to be. And back, it's making me go out and buy old stuff before everybody scoops it all up.
Yeah, that's what I get. When I get the trade paperbacks, I get the older stuff. It's like a lot of, but I read, and when I go through my long boxes, though, there's a bunch of Image stuff in there, though. I was like, and one thing I will, if I'm being honest, there was a lot of great art at Image, but there wasn't a lot of good writing at Image.
See, I was an Image kid, man, but see, I came from the artist part of it. Like, I was drawn to the art, and it wasn't until I read stuff like Year One, where I was like, that was awesome. That was like watching, French Connection or something, and that's when I started like really getting into it. I'm like, oh, so these things can be like really good. But I didn't know any different when I got in and, I was reading, I thought it was right when they were relaunching X. They were doing X-Force and then relaunching X-Men with Jim Lee and Claremont. And Claremont was a little over my head. Like there was so much going on, but I just
really had to pay attention because he didn't write short stories. It was all like there was stuff he was dropping 5, 6, 7 issues ago, and it was just now paying off.
See, I love that stuff now. That richness of the universe that he's creating is so good. But like, it was a little over my head back then. So when Image came out, and it was a lot easier for me to wrap my head around, some of this stuff. I guess because it was brand new too. You were getting to start from ground zero and grow with them. But like I found Spawn like too wordy. I was like, I can't read. That's like a book. It's the same reason I didn't read Cerebus. It was like a damn book, man. I'll go read books. I want comics.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's kind of the balance. And I've gotten a few comic books over the last few months where they have beautiful art, but some of the writer's a little too wordy.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's something I agree. Richard gave me really good advice. And I'm glad that I can pick his brain sometimes. I try not to bother him too much, but I've noticed if I send him a DM, we're friends on Facebook. So like if I send him a DM, and I go, hey, what would you think about such, and he'll, sometimes it might take him a day or so, but he'll answer me back. He'll be like, hey, this is what's going on. He'll take the time and he'll actually answer me. And I always appreciate, but one thing he said is that he said sometimes writers get a little too wordy, especially like if you got a great artist, let the artist tell the story and just hit your points in there. Don't try to over explain. This is the gravitational device and it's pulling at the Earth's core and it's gonna do this and all, and you just sit there and go, okay. And it's like I start, I got a book and it, I was looking through and it had beautiful art in it, and I'm looking, I was like, man, there's just so much stuff going on. You really, really have to be wanting to read.
Well, I got a philosophy in that, like, don't put like huge bubbles of just words. Like if you look at some of the old school, the better comics, they break them up into smaller panels that lead your eye through the page. And plus it's not just such a chore to get through this one block of text. And then another thing is like, I like to accomplish at least one thing in a page, if you read through the page and there's an action that's being completed, hopefully you got 3 levels. You got an action, a physical action, you got some sort of subtext where you're giving reasons why they're going through this action, or there's setting up something that's coming, and then a level of dialogue that could be a whole other surface. So it's like each level is telling you something different, but it could also all be leading in the same direction. You know what I mean? So you got so many opportunities to like deliver story that doesn't include these giant text blocks,
Yeah, and I was like, I'm looking, and I was like, man, this would be. It's not that it's poorly written; it's just so much dialogue. And then I'm looking, I'm like, you got this great art, man. This is an action sequence. You don't need. It's like, George is using his power fist, which connects the power of the gods. It does. Yeah. I was like, okay.
No,
man.
In reality, he should be describing the stuff that we can't see, what it feels like to have this thing on, and all that, and the energy is surging through him, and the fight to contain blah blah blah, all that stuff.
I was like, yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. What all did you do? Because I was like, you were an artist on like what was it, Batman Adventures, where you was like, and like, did you do the colors on it too, or no?
Well, no, I did. I was just the huge fan of that show, and I was trying to get in on the books from day one, and as soon as that show came out, that kind of redefined my style, and it actually is what got me to do Bastard Samurai, because Oming was also a huge fan of that style. And then so eventually when I got with Gaijin, I got contacts at DC, and they saw that I was doing that kind of stuff, and they asked me to do covers for it. And I was like, holy crap, not only am I getting to do the book, but I'm like the cover guy I'm the first thing people see. That was super exciting, but it was way more challenging than I ever expected. Because to do that style, it's deceptively simple. But yeah, I colored it. I did all the art on the covers. And unfortunately, right when I got in, I loved the Art Deco look of everything. That logo that they had, Batman Adventures. It was it was so sweet. And right when I got in, I took a trip to New York to work with Hasbro on some G.I. Joe stuff. And I went to go by the DC offices. And Mark Chiarello's there. And he's like, hey, I want to show you the new logo for Batman Adventures. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's see it. And it's like that cartoony, weird. All the letters are all bubbling out. It's the last one they had. I was like, this is terrible. And he's like, really? Everybody loves it. I'm like, everybody's afraid to tell you the truth. This thing sucks.
Oh wow!
And then they changed it. He had like these weird long ears. They totally changed it right when I got in, but I didn't care. I was like Batman Adventures, and I got to do a Mr. Freeze issue, which Mr. Freeze was my absolute favorite because of the show.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite. Him and Penguin are. Yeah, and I know some people hate Penguin. I love Penguin.
Dude, I was like, who would have thought Penguin actually had an interesting character until that show? He was a politician. He was a crook. I mean, it was so interesting the way they drew him in that. Yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all those characters. I'm about to watch that series again and actually maybe review each episode because it's been a while.
They released a Blu-ray of the entire series. It's on Amazon, but I saw some YouTubers reviewing the Blu-ray, and they were like, some of the transfers apparently have some issues, which I hate that. I was like, if you're going to spend all that money remastering it, it's like, oh, now on Blu-ray. It's like, make sure all the transfers are dead on the money, man, because you're charging like $100 and something to get the entire run of the series. Make sure the transfer is like dead. They're trying to. I saw a petition. People were trying to get them to restore Star Trek Deep Space Nine as well, because it was. I saw some YouTubers where they were taking. It was like, this is what it looks like now, and this is what it should look like if they did. And so you get like these real technical guys, and they're able to actually get the footage to look even crisper and clear. And I was like. And you did that on your computer, and they can do it. But I was like, they take like 30 seconds of footage, and they'd be like, this is what it looks like. This is directly off the DVD, and this is what it should look like in like 1080 DPI. It was like, and they're able to do that. So, and they did stuff like that with the Batman, animation. I was like, man, because like I said, I'm an animation head. I like, Japanese anime, all that. Because, and one thing I liked when they made the announcement that Bone was going to Netflix was Jeff Smith said that it was definitely going to be 2D. It wasn't going to be 3D. Which I was like, thank God. And there's some really good 3D animation, but I am a 2D guy, man. I love that.
Well,
so
Bone lends itself so well to 2D too, because it's like, it's very old school. I can imagine like those Bambi style watercolor backgrounds and stuff, or whatever, just a real lush old school 2D, animation. Be great.
Well, yeah, and I saw in the
like that Disney bounce, when they're
yeah, absolutely. And but I saw someone in chat, and they were like Bone was kind of a ripoff of Pogo, and
love letter.
But that's why I'm about to say when Jeff was on, that was one of the books that he said, he was like, that was he loved that as a kid. That was the stuff that he read when he was a kid. So yeah, he was definitely influenced by it. Yeah, that was.
I mean, everybody's so trying to get a gotcha moment on everybody, but he mentioned that Pogo was a major influence.
Yeah, he loved it. Yeah, he gave so much love to. It's like he was like, that was big time. That was stuff that I read. He named a few other. Obviously, Charles Schultz and stuff like just. Which, shout out to Charles Schultz.
Like I came to that book late because again, I was all into like the cool looking stuff, and I'm like, I'm not interested in this Bone. That doesn't make any sense. A Bone guy? I just didn't. And then the first book got collected, and It had like Neil Gaiman on there and like all these people that
who I love, by the way.
were fantastic. So I'm like, well, Jesus, they can't all just be paying the guy lip service. There must be something to this. So I read that first book and I was just like, wow, this is awesome.
Well, that was one of the things when I talked to him, and I saw some people asking like where can they find the interviews, like the Steve Englehart stuff. If you click on my channel and look on the playlist that I have one called the Creator Series, and that's where I stick all the indie interviews that I do, all the different, either the comic book pros, like this stream here, this will go on the Creator Series playlist. So you'll find Jeff Smith on there, Sanford Green, Anderson, Steve Englehart. Yeah, I had Mike Barron on, so it's like you can find obviously Ethan Van Sciver and those. Yeah. Look, man, it's like when I had Mike on, I needed, matter of fact, I need to bring Mike back because I was going through my collection. I remember the first thing of his I read, and it wasn't Nexus. It was Punisher #9.
Yeah.
It was, and in that issue, he killed Microchip's son. Microchip had a son that would go on missions with the Punisher. He was trying to be like mini Microchip, and he kind of knew some weapon stuff. He knew some of the computer stuff, and he went out on this mission with the Punisher, and Punisher brought him back to his dad in the body bag. And I was like, I was a kid when I was like, whoa, he's got the kid in the body bag, and I felt so bad. And I was hooked.
So, Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon are like my two favorite writers of all time, and it's like they just so happen to like be hanging around, getting to work with Chuck Dixon and Barron. I think the first book I ever read of Barron's was a Jade Man comic, a Hong Kong. It was like The Wind in the Cloud or something, and he was doing like the adaptation of that, which is bizarre. He's done a lot of work. You'd never realize that Barron was involved in that.
Yeah, okay.
That adaptation of that Star Wars book, one of my favorite.
He's got some great. And that was when Star Wars was over at Dark Horse, and you see, it was like Star Wars, and a lot of the stuff that happened when before Star Wars came back to Marvel. Is that Sigmund Freud or something?
That's my booger picker. Somebody's asking about this guy.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I highlighted it just so you can see it, and I was like, okay. I was like, is that supposed to be like Sigmund Freud or something? But no, a lot of the Dark Horse Star Wars stuff. I thought like Dark Empire.
Kennedy, Rick Veitch and dude, stuff.
Yeah, that's why I was like, see, that's why I was like, that's the stuff I was reading. It was so good. I don't enjoy the newer version because like I read some of the old Marvel comics where what was it? Walt Simonson. I know he had worked on some of those, and I had like Star Wars. I had Indiana Jones, and they were all Marvel comics. I was like 7, 8 years old, and
Dune. They also had, right?
Yeah. They also had Thundercats and He-Man.
Yeah.
And then they did that what was it, a couple years ago? They did Masters of the Universe versus Thundercats. Yeah. That series got a little gritty. There was some violence going on in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like someone died. I'm not gonna say who, but I was like, wait a minute, you can't be killing these characters. What are you doing?
Maybe
I was like, wait a minute.
Not Panthro. If it was Panthro, I would have a problem.
No, it was a little higher up on the totem pole than Panthro, but they had to use some sword magic to bring someone back. I was like, oh wow. I was like, this is crazy. Because I was always into stuff like that. That's why one of the reasons I backed Kyle Ritter's Starblades is it looked so much like Silverhawks. Yeah, and I was like, Thundercats and Silverhawks, I probably ripped some of that stuff off for brand because I was like, man, it's like I loved 80s cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
you'll see, and one of them, and I take a lot of shit for saying this, but I love Jim and the Holograms. It was all the same. Yeah, it was the same animation studio, G.I. Joe.
The best theme songs they had too. That was a great theme song.
Yeah, but they had Jim, they had G.I. Joe, and then they had Transformers. It's all the same company. Yeah, so
it was at that DIC.
Yeah. And except for that last season of G.I. Joe where they switched animation, what was it, Sun House or something fun? I was like, oh God, that last season of G.I. Joe was horrible.
Gosh, I don't remember that. I need to go back and
well, they had that they switched the theme song, Got to Get Tough.
Oh yeah.
Yo, Joe. And that's when they came out with Tiger Force, where they were infusing the power of animals into the actual ships and everything. It was like yeah, so they would take like a pipe. They had Python Patrol and Tiger Force, and they like I said, they switched animation studios, and some of the voice actors didn't come back. And
I was kind of like I was in that sweet spot where I was watching the G1 Transformers. Like it started on I was watching oh man, who's the clown from Chicago? Bozo the clown.
Oh yeah, WGN Channel 9.
Yeah, he would show the Transformers in little clips on the show. So that's the only reason I watched it. That and that stupid ball game, because I'm like, I could do that. Fucking, they're throwing the ball into the cups. But anyway,
I wrote to them. I actually wrote. He used to do the little ball game or something where. Like if they pick, they spin the little tumbler thing and pull out a letter from a kid,
right?
And then if you won, then the kid that's playing on the show, you would get all the same prizes that kid got. So I like got the mail and I sent it in, and I unfortunately never pulled my letter. So I was
I think I did that too, actually.
I was like the grand prize game, and I was just like, oh man. But no, that's old school. But that's where I saw G.I. Joe the movie for the first time.
Yeah,
it's like crashing through the night.
That's what I was getting at. Like I watched that first season of G.I. Joe, the G1 Transformers, and a bunch of other stuff. But I remember when the Transformers the movie came out. And I was blown away. It was like a growing up moment because there was like cussing in it and stuff, and I was like, whoa, And then they, but I remember after that, and then I think I was going into high school when the G.I. Joe movie was coming out, or maybe it was like a little before that. But I remember those series like fundamentally changed after those movies, and like I lost interest in the show because like you got Rodimus Prime and all that.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, I might be done.
I was like, I get. Although some of the G2 Transformers were cool. I mean, they had sleeker designs and stuff. I had Hot Rod, which is Rodimus before.
Actually, I gotta admit, I love that stuff, dude. When they rolled out the Predaking.
The Predacons, with Predaking, and I was like,
oh man, I wanted that stuff so bad.
I had 3 of them. I was trying to assemble the whole thing. Now you see them on eBay. They've got knockoffs of them too. That's like I be on eBay all the time, and I was like, oh my god, I want that. And I was like, no. My ex used to give me so much shit. She's like, you're a grown ass man. You still talking about toys and video games and shit. And I was like, I know, but this is the stuff that I loved when I was a kid. And it's like, yeah, but you're a grown man now.
She doesn't understand that, like, from our point of view, that was the penultimate time for toys and cartoons and marketing to our generation, us as children. And none of us had any money. I mean, there was
and then you start getting some money, you be like, wait a minute, I can finally get that USS flag that I wanted. Although, when you go on eBay now and you see, I don't know if you ever saw, because I went to, there was a store called Fred's here in Murfreesboro, and they were, pretty prevalent all throughout the South, at least in Tennessee. But Fred's had a USS flag in the toy section, and that thing was like, the box. You see those things on eBay complete at they're like $1,200-$1,300. I was like, wow. I just couldn't.
Space shuttle. I wanted that stuff so bad. I used to get the Sears catalog, just so I could
Now
look.
you really telling your age, because I remember this.
I would check out the chicks in the lingerie, and then I'd go to the toy section. It was like my two sections in Sears catalog.
Mm, mm. I was like, yeah, man, I would look. And do you remember that, my mom used to collect those stamps? They used to you get the stamps, and if you fill up the book of stamps, you could send them in and get you could trade them in for a gift card or something like that. It was just but I remember when they announced that that Sears wouldn't be sending out the catalog anymore, and I was just like,
oh yeah.
I was like, that's when you knew, because it's like we used to get phone books all the time. I haven't gotten a phone book in years now. And I was like, it's strange to me if anyone asks me, he's like, hey, do you guys have a phone book? I was like, use your phone, dude. That's what I was like Google.
It's buried in the laundry room, but it's just like a local one. It's like this thick. But I remember Dallas, we'd get this giant one and then a whole other one for something else.
I was just like, it's strange to me though. Now it's like, I mean, there's so much. The stuff that I've when sometimes my oldest nephew just turned 25 back in July, and I talked to him about playing video games with his father, and I was like, we were on a Atari 2600, and he can't relate because these videos have movie footage in them and stuff. These games he's playing Halo and Gears of War and all this, and I was like, dude, we were playing two little stick figures and stuff, and he looks at the stuff on somebody playing Atari 2600 on YouTube, and he can't. He's like,
yeah. There was a great the guy that wrote that was that Spielberg movie with the kid going into the virtual reality. Well, that kid, the guy that wrote that, I forget his name, Ernest Klein. He used to be like a beat poet comedian type in Austin. And there was in Texas that his tape was floating around, so I ended up with it. But he had these great diatribes. You can actually find copies of it on his website. I highly recommend it. He has this one about Airwolf that will blow your mind, and then he has another one about how good you kids got it today. One of those things where when I was a kid, your video games, you were represented by a block. And you couldn't win. It got harder and harder until you died, just like life.
Well, there you go. Because it's when you said Airwolf, I thought it was Jan Michael Vincent. I was I remember he used to go on Howard Stern all the time, and I was like, Howard, when he died a few years ago, I remember I was just
Jan Michael Vincent. Or?
Yeah. Jan Michael Vincent died a few years ago, and Howard said, man, that was the greatest guest that ever appeared on the show. He's he made multiple appearances on Howard Stern, and
he was motherfucker, man. That guy.
That dude, Airwolf. I remember Airwolf, and but I used to play. I remember when I went from an Atari 2600 to a Nintendo.
Yeah, dude,
man. And
he's playing that shit.
Yeah, and and at that time, a lot of people didn't have Nintendo, so all of a sudden, your house would become the neighborhood hangout and stuff, and all of a sudden, I got people hey mom, can I go over to Antonio's house? I was like, wait a minute, these kids didn't like me a few weeks ago. Why are they all of a sudden wanting to come to my house and play Super Mario Brothers? It's that kind of.
I wonder.
It's but you would, and then I remember taking the cartridge out. You had to blow the cartridge. And Metroid. I remember when I got Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and I remember getting the Legend of Zelda, and they had the gold cartridge.
Yeah.
Oh,
and my cousin, we stayed up days trying to figure that game out. Days.
Dude, sometimes I wouldn't want to, if I was in a place where I couldn't save it, I would pause the game and just go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we made the Nintendo so hot that the thing the adapter melted. It was so hot, man. I was just like, my God.
Those things were so durable. My cousin had one, and he had a house fire, and all his Nintendo tapes and the Nintendo burned up. And they were just it got water on it. It got burned up and melted. And they were just going to trash it all. And my mom actually went and saved all that stuff, cleaned it off, and that shit still worked. I mean, we plugged it in, it worked fine. I mean, that you can't do that today, man. They don't make stuff that durable now. Yeah, it was made. What is this?
Oh yeah, I got a super chat from fucking Cool Too. He said, "Love you, attorney." Well, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. But no, man, dude, I love that. Oh, well, there's Reno. Hold up, super chat. Let's see, represented by just a block Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. I mean, do you realize that? Like, I'm sure you do. I've been thinking about this, about how, and I love this, that our lives represent the entire like history of like video games, the internet, several things, cell phones. We had pagers. You probably had you remember pager days?
Yeah, trust me. Well, my brother was a dope dealer, so I'm just saying he was kind of hot on the block, man. He had
everybody thought you were a drug dealer if you had one. It didn't matter if you were or not.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, it's like
that pager. They'd be like, "What do you got? Are you a drug dealer?"
I don't know if you ever used to watch The Real World. I used to watch The Real World on MTV, and that first season when they were in New York, and what was the guy? His name was Kevin. And the white girl, she was from like Alabama or something, and she made a joke, and they made a whole episode of it, became racial. She was like, "You got a pager? Are you a drug dealer?" And then all of a sudden, it became the whole episode. It's like, do you understand? This is for my work or whatever. It's like, it's a black man. You know, they had this whole thing like out in the middle of the street and people and he's talked about because he ended up writing. He became a news journalist. I can't remember his Kevin something, but he became one of the guys that interviewed Tupac Shakur at least 3 or 4 times. He had he did a lot of in-depth interviews with Tupac Shakur when when Tupac got locked up and different we signed with Death Row, and he did but I was like, that's the guy from The Real World that was they did that whole, hey, I'm a black, just because I'm a black guy and I've got a pager, I thought that was funny.
I mean, that was back in like 93-ish. I mean, that was
maybe 91, I think. Actually, 91. Yeah, that was a while ago.
I mean, that's amazing that, like, I mean, that's what's so weird about it's like all this stuff about, like getting offended. I mean, it's like, I don't know. We've kind of been through this in the 90s. I remember there was a lot of like forward momentum from all these progressive issues in the 90s. So, I mean, when all these kids are getting out of college now and they're all bitching and whining about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I thought we had a lot of this kind of starting on the good path now, and now you're kind of bringing it back. What the hell?
Well, it's like, okay, so you got Dave Chappelle, which Sticks and Stones is hilarious. I thought Sticks and Stones was some of his best work in like a decade.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah, but like, okay, so you have that transgender comedian that committed suicide, just about a week ago or so, and all of a sudden everybody's trying to blame Dave Chappelle. He had mentioned her by name in he just mentioned her first name, Daphne, in the special. And she said that she thought the jokes that he told were funny. She wasn't, and then all these people getting fake offended this is why people making jokes about trans people, and this is serious. People are losing their lives out here. And I was like, dude, he made some jokes. He didn't say harm anybody and everything. God, man, y'all gotta lighten up, man. This is too much. I was just like, this is crazy, man. I was like, they're trying, but I mean, there are people they were like review bombing him on like Rotten Tomatoes, trying to give him like, I think he had like a 14-15%, and then but when the audience rated it, he had like a 99% approving. And so I was like, it was funny. The special's hilarious, and I think that's why people really gravitated towards it. I think, like I said,
I was going through a bit of like an oh shit moment with Chappelle, because like when he came back, he was doing some comedy that seemed like he had been talked to or something. I don't know.
Yeah. They took him to the re-education camp. Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, they got to him. And then he did a few more things, and I just kind of wrote him off. I'm like, shit, another fucking guy going down the wrong path. And then he did this intimate little special. He did a special, and then there was a second part of it where he was in this room just with like a small crowd, and he was just sitting down talking, and he was dropping truth bombs like crazy. And I was like, oh,
that Equanimity, I think it was called.
Right before all this stuff on Netflix.
Yeah, Equanimity. Yeah, it is. Like,
and it was so good. I was like, oh, okay, I can, he's still.
I love those sets too. I love them because I went to see Chappelle at the Ryman. I think it was about 2014. It was when that guy, I think he was in Austin, Texas, about a week before, and the guy brought a banana peel to the comedy theater and threw it at him on stage, which, and they arrested him for assault, but it was funny because I paid like $80 a piece for those tickets that I got. And I was like, why would you spend that much money to come to see Dave Chappelle just to throw something at him? But the guy, it was
Dave Chappelle's, he's like, he doesn't care. He's just like, I got that $80. Okay, you got any more banana peels?
Yeah, but I mean, so he worked that into like I said, it was like a week later, and he came to Nashville at the Ryman, and he did 3 shows there. And I went the first night, the second show, and it was funny. Like, there were friends of mine, they were leaving the first show, and I was like, Jesse, that's you, man. And he looked over and we like hugging each other. I was like, yeah, I'm going to the late night. What's going on, man? It was like, we were all, it was like, dude, it's Chappelle. I had to go see him, man. I was like, because I had 2 choices. There was a Kevin Hart show coming 2 weeks later, or to see Chappelle. So I talked to my buddy Aaron, and I was like, do you want to see Chappelle or you want to see Kevin Hart? He's like, Chappelle's a legend, man. We got to go see Chappelle. And I'm so good. And I had a buddy of mine, he went to both. He went to see the Chappelle show and the Kevin Hart set. And he said, I got to be honest, I kind of wish I hadn't paid all that money to go see the Kevin Hart show. It was all right, but it wasn't that funny. Yeah. And I was like, Yeah,
I have to think that, like, you got to play the odds, especially if you got limited time and money. Kevin Hart's really just getting started, even though he's been around for ages, but he's really hitting his apex. Chappelle, on the other hand, I don't know how much. I think he'll never stop. He'll be like an old Red Fox type, out there doing his comedy. But I guarantee it'll be a lot fewer and far between, and a lot harder to see live. So, I think if you get the opportunity, you need to take it now, because he's reaching a level that will be, it'll just be too hard to get in them clubs after a while.
But that's one thing I like about him is, as big as he is, he'll still go play little clubs. He loves that. He loves he's talked about, matter of fact, he'll show up at a club and he'll be just like, hey, can I get a set? He'll just won't even tell him he's coming. He doesn't want them to make a fuss. He doesn't want him, hey, Chappelle's here, blah, blah, blah. He just wants to just be able to go, hey, Dave Chappelle, just walk out and everybody like, oh, what's he doing here? They just, it'd be like 50 people in there. And he gets a rush from that, because he was like, that's when I can tell if I still got it. He's like, I know if I tell somebody that I'm coming like a month and a half from now and they've got weeks to promote it, I'll get a good crowd to show up. He said, but I want to know those people that didn't expect me to come, they didn't come here to see me. He said, I want to know if I can walk out and make those people laugh.
Shit, you'd probably make whole new fans that way. I mean, you're not even expecting that, and then they get a bonus. Like, I just paid $30 to get in here, and now I get to see Chappelle. How fucking great is that? I mean,
that's it's perfect to me, But he did that. I know he did that in L.A. I think he was at the Comedy Store, and he was just supposed to go up for a set, and he did like 3 hours, dude.
Oh,
he went up there for 3 hours.
I would have been just like, oh, yeah.
And yeah, other comedians are wanting to come on. He was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna take over.
Comedians, you got to be shitting me. If I was a comedian, I would have pulled up a chair, man, and just watched for 3 hours. There's no way you could follow that.
Yeah, I just man, I love it. Like you said, Chappelle's a genius, and I think a lot of the blowback that he's getting now, because I mean the special's been out for a couple months now, and people have had their fake outrage, and the problem is they weren't able to get him out of here, and that's the problem. So like when this stuff happens, and they write their articles, you got YouTubers making videos. Dave Chappelle is homophobic and transphobic and all the, he's making all, and it's outrage culture, and it doesn't hurt him. He keeps, the audience stays with him, and because that's the thing, like the when the fans stick with you, then there's, it's like Louis C.K. is starting to get flack because he's starting to do shows again. So it's like, if Louis C.K. can do stuff. I remember it was a couple months ago, someone had recorded part of his set when he showed up. I think it was in New York, and he said something. I heard the 10-minute clip, and I was like, he just sounded like the same Louis C.K. to me. He was just doing his material, but they were trying to read. Yeah,
well, he was doing exactly what Chappelle did. He was like, that's you. He was pointing the finger back at the audience, and he was doing the same thing. Yeah. They don't like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, they like to be able to be like Caesar in Rome, and they want to be able to do this or do this. And when they do this, and the audience is like, no, we still like Dave.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm all in favor of like I was real nervous about a lot of this stuff, and like, what does it mean? And am I going to have a job? And like, I mean, never mind the philosophical issues of what they're fighting for or against or whatnot. I'm like, I don't really have, it's none of my business, but I just need my job. And I was real worried that they were going to come after me. And like, I stopped getting work at like Archie and other places, and they were swearing up and down that it had nothing to do with my associations, but I'm sure it did. But eventually I stopped caring what everybody thought, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do my thing the way I've always done it, and there'll be people that like it and people that don't, and I'm here for the people that like it, so I just don't pay them no attention.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was bringing up to my next question. So how do you end up working with Mitch Breitweiser and being a part of Allegiance Arts and Entertainment? How does that happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, it started with Zach, really. I mean, I was working on the Mighty Crusaders at Archie and Dark Fang at Image at the same time, and I was just worked out of my gourd, and I was hearing all these rumblings of what was going on and not really understanding it or caring. And then I hear that I hear this. I was part of one of those YouTube Facebook groups. So I was kind of getting wind. It started off great. There was old schoolers, and it was all the people of major guys in comics, and it was a great time. And then I kind of dipped out. I had a lot of work to do, and then I came back in, and it was Tamara Bonvillain and I forget all the names, but they were just bitching and hollering about the people harassing them, and I was like, what's going on? This is crazy. Point them out. I'll go kick their ass, whatever. So I'm like, and then I started listening to the videos of the guy they're talking about, Zach, and
yeah, and
I'm like, well, I don't really hear what the big deal is. He's kind of making a little sense, and then what was it? He mentioned that the guy lettering my book and like B. Clay Moore were like conspiring to get his PTSD up at some con or something like that. And so I call up my buddy and we're doing the book with, and I'm like, what the shit is this, man? we can't have this happening. So I wrote to the guy lettering. I don't really want to mention his name. He's a good dude. I mean, he said it was a misunderstanding. They were goofing around and somebody overheard them.
Yeah.
I like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but
I don't know. I've seen too many screenshots from private conversations. It's like super villains conspiring.
Yeah. So it's it is what it is, and it's out there now, and it's part of record. So I mean, there's no denying it. But anyway, So I kept listening to all the stuff going on, and I'd be communicating with the fans, listening to Zach in the chats and stuff, and trying to defend a lot of the people that were, guys that IDW. I mean, I know all these people, and they've all been super great to me. And it's really kind of sucks that there's this guy that's bringing up points that I've been bringing up since the day one that I got in this business, stuff that's wrong with the industry and new stuff that's going on that I'm like, oh yeah, I've noticed that, but I kind of didn't pay any attention, like in books, the story points and weird character stuff. And so the more I listened to him, and I just would write to him out of the blue. I don't remember exactly why I wrote to him, but eventually he just asked if I wanted to do one of the books. And I thought, yeah, I mean, it just seemed like, because people in the industry who are having a problem with him know me and know what kind of person I am. And so maybe if I did this and I was doing my image book, I could bridge some gaps, maybe. And it didn't work.
Yeah, well,
I get phone calls going like, "Do you know what you're doing?" I'm like, "No, but I'm following my heart, and it's telling me that this is the right thing to do." And I don't know all the stuff that you guys are talking about him. It's really exaggerated and it's not true. So anyway, I started working with him, and I did that book. It was successful. I was coloring other people, and then I helped out Elizabeth and Mitch on another book. Everybody was struggling. We were all struggling. It was a really dark time for everybody.
And I know you worked on Bigfoot Bill too. That's why I was
I colored Bigfoot Bill.
Yeah, which it turned out great. And I'm looking at, I got a page of it hanging on my wall.
Oh yeah, I got a page too. I love it.
Yeah. It's like, hold on,
dude, I've been all over Comicsgate since the beginning. It's just I kind of do like I did in the mainstream, where I just stayed on the down low. It's like I just like to work and do the thing, but it's become clear that the new way is really to, man, all this stuff, the singularity, like I was talking about, all this stuff happens at like all the same time. I also saw this report or this YouTube video about how art people buy art for the artist, not necessarily for the art, but for the artist. That's why they go to galleries and meet the artist. And if the artist is usually crazy, they got a story about it or whatever. So I'm like, I can't hide behind the mainstream anymore. I have to get out here and I have to make bold moves, working with Zach, working on Bigfoot Bill, working on, with the Brightwisers, being a part of this, what's happening, because I always said that I've when I got into the industry was like at the beginning of the decline, and I'm a big student of history and I know the cycles of things, and I'm like, I'm going to stick with it until the next wave. So when all this started, it really hit me like a ton of bricks, man. I was like, this is it. This is not at all what I expected. I thought it was going to be like Image Comics all over again, but it's not. It's different. It's way more confusing. And, I think ultimately it's going to be better in the long run. Hold on, my phone's ringing.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, let me see. Got a $5 super chat from Eddie Winkler. And I'm one of the people that backed both of your projects. Make this a regular thing, guys. You guys gel well together. Well, I think me and Kelsey always seem to like each other. I notice we pop up on streams together. And a lot of times when we do these long streams, the better part of it was when we got off the air and we'd still be talking to each other. We'd still be sitting there like an hour, 2 hours later talking to each other. And there's nobody listening. I thought we had some really fun conversations off the air. And so I always liked Kelsey. So I always knew that I wanted to talk to him. So
you can have me on anytime, man. I'm trying to be out here more, and this you got a nice relaxing show, and it's fun, like talking comics and nerd stuff, and
Well, I love the YouTube videos you've been making. I mean, the one you made the other day with the never-ending story, I was like, I'm glad I know Kelsey Shannon. That's awesome.
Well, I was thinking, this is a bit calculated, but it's mostly like, it's mostly a feeling thing. When you're like, it dawned on me that I'm putting out information, I'm talking about the book, but it's not enough. I'm like, I have to communicate somehow why you'll like this book, and for people like me. And so immediately I thought of the different things that moved me as a kid that were very similar in that vein, that it's not superhero. So it's like, how do you describe it? I'm like, oh man. And then Blake just mentioned Labyrinth. I couldn't believe I forgot about that one. That's another one where, your young protagonist is cast off into, it's the hero's journey. All of these are the hero's journey. You're being cast off into the wilderness and you have to grow up, and it's the same kind of stuff. So what were we talking about?
Well, no, but that's actually because I actually want to show. I've got it pulled up, and I want to actually show Nora's Saga in the campaign because it's got some really cool stuff.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Make this work.
Oh, there.
Hold on. Now I'm having boomer moment. Hold up. Okay, hold up. There it goes. I was like, don't tell me I'm about to have boomer moment. So I was like, I might still be about to have boomer moment. Hopefully you're. Wait a minute. Did I lock up? Hold up.
We Gen Xers are boomers now.
Yeah, let me see. Can I get it? Because I see it sharing. Let me see. Can I get it to? Because the chat was going, everything was perfect, and I try to bring technology into it. But can you actually hear me? Because I'm like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, because I'm like, oh God, hold on. Let me, because that's why I keep my phone with me so I can see what's going on in the chat.
My new thing is, you kids today, you got it so bad. You don't know how good we used to have it, man. Technology worked. Games were awesome. Movies were awesome. You kids got it so bad today.
Yeah, like I said, I noticed, the video games look better.
Yeah, they're just not. I mean, I don't know. I don't play enough video games. I mean, I'm obsessed with Grand Theft Auto. I still play that one. But what do you call it? Like cell phones, man. I mean, my old flip phone from the late 90s works better than my smartphone all day. Oh, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, there he goes. Yeah, Nora's Saga. Look at this piece. This is from the Futurists that we're looking at right here.
Yeah, if I can get this,
man. Can you believe
you can
got Butch Geist, man? That guy's a legend.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I read some of his stuff from like the 80s and 90s. And
90s, dude, has been around.
All right, so
so much better now. He keeps astounding us.
I really like the way. Did you come up with some of these logos or any of this?
That's all Mitch, actually.
Oh man,
he really had he worked very hard to kind of set the tone, which now it's a machine that's running, and thank God he can get back to Rooster, but he really had to set
back to Red Rooster. So
yeah, dude, we're all looking. I've seen it almost all of it. I think there's like a couple things, and he's still got to finish some stuff and coloring, but it's all pretty much done, and it's amazing. But a lot of people are asking, why isn't Rooster part of this? Well, it has its own thing, and since that started,
which is still active, by the way, it's still, the campaign's still live.
So this is like after that became a thing, and Mitch saw the opportunity to everything again, that singularity, all these pieces kind of came together. It was a total accident, or as I like to call it, it was the universe working its magic. You have to take advantage of it when the opportunities come along. So after that book came out, he met the right people, things just started happening. I was helping them out with things, and then they brought me in. They brought it's just all these things coalesced into this moment that had to be taken advantage of right now, or else if he'd have waited until he finished Rooster, it would have been too late. So I hope in the future people will understand the magnitude of what he helped start. And I see other guys doing this, Ethan, and everybody's got their plans. I think next year is going to be a whole different game for everyone. It's going to be.
Well, I've got this piece pulled up and it looks incredible, man.
Thanks.
Whew, man. Okay, so let's get into your thought process here, brother. Like, because that's one of the things when we were talking earlier about, you know, us coming up from a certain age and the technology changing. I've watched some of your stuff where you're drawing and stuff. So you're like digital now, right? You don't do you draw much traditionally anymore?
I'm man, I'm trying to get back to it because there's something missing in my world, man. It's all this digital stuff, and I'm missing being a part of the earth, man. And I think drawing with pencils and papers and getting your hands messy with ink and paint, it's tactile and you're part of the earth at that point. And I'm trying to get back to it. In fact, my drawing video next week is I don't have time to do the whole Inktober, but I want to do some real inking and talk about dry brushing and that kind of stuff, because I know some of that kind of stuff really confounds people. That it's really easy. That's one of my whole goals, to like do digital work and to do traditional stuff, is to try to show people the really how easy it is if you get past a lot of the, you know, the mental blocks, you know, and technique, and it's really just, you know, getting used to the pressure of the, you know, how the tool feels in your hand. That's the whole thing. The tool doesn't really matter, you know, it's what you're trying to do with the tool. So you just got to get used to the tools and then get past that so that you can focus on what you're trying to say. Because ultimately that's what really matters. It's not like, I mean, I love me some like David Finch, but I don't need all that. That's great for like the resell. If I want that page on my wall so I can stare at it. But you know, if you're reading a comic, you're going through a page roughly every minute, or faster than that even a lot of times. So it's really about flow. I think I went off on a huge tangent. Yeah, digital. I'm mostly digital right now.
So yeah, but I look at this. This is beautiful work, Kelsey. This is well, I mean, I don't know how valuable my opinion is, because I'm a big fan.
Dude, it's all valuable. I eat it up. If you got crits, man, anybody can like let me know. I soak up information from if somebody's like, I don't like her eyes, then I catalog that and I start thinking about it, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with it? Oh, okay, I can see a little this, a little that, you know.
Yeah, man, I looked at this. I've looked at this image so many times, and the video that's on. And did you do the video that's on the Indiegogo? Because I saw it on your YouTube as well, and I was like, I was like, stop being good at so much stuff, man. Stop.
It's just a willingness to jump in there and learn it. I've wanted to be a filmmaker long before I wanted to do comics, so I always have this in the back of my head. I watched YouTubes for how to do photography. I bought a nice camera so that I can practice, and so I've been doing, you know, making animation with After Effects and learning, and I've been doing that shit for 15 years or something. Now. And I've been doing YouTube since the beginning. It's just I never had an audience, you know. So YouTube has gotten really big, and now there's an audience that I can entertain. I'm going to pull out all the stops, man. I'm going to have some fun, and like hopefully people will enjoy it. So how does this particular, because there are three campaigns. There's three stories on this campaign here, and obviously you're working on. I know you're working on Nora Saga as the artist and the colorist, and you're coloring the Bass Reeves project as well. Yeah. Am I wrong about that? But you're not doing anything on the Futurist, right? No, I wish I had a piece of all three of these. That'd be so great. But no, the Futurist is Butch and Mitch, and you're gonna make me.
And Betty. Is Betty Brightweiser coloring it, or no?
Yeah, she's coloring it, and I think they're gonna hand it off to some people. I've been so busy trying to do the Nora Saga and stuff, and the Bass Reeves. I've kind of let I need to brush up on my info on Futurists. But Futurists is one of those books that when he started coming out with Rooster and he started talking about the Futurists, I'm like, that's my book. So I'm real hesitant to learn too much about the meat and potatoes of how, the behind the scenes, because I don't want to spoil it for even though I'm working at the place that's making it, I'm still a fan of this stuff. So Bass, I mean, I'm dug into Bass, but I'm trying not to read it too closely so that, I can get through it emotionally, and then I can go back and read it, as a whole piece and enjoy it, for what it is. But like Nora, I mean, it's such a part of me. Unfortunately, I'll never get the opportunity to read it as a whole for the first time. I'll be picking it apart the whole time. But
yeah, so did they have all these stories already laid out, and then they go, okay, Kelsey, you want to work on this, or is this something you guys came up with, or is this a story that Blake had already written and she brought it to them, or how did that come about?
Well, Patrick, and it was, I think, Patrick's idea originally. He wanted to do it as a web comic, and it was a whole different beast. It was kind of more of a comedy, like a dark comedy. And then when all this started happening, Mitch was like, why don't we use that? Then I think they were massaging the story around and trying to figure out, like, maybe what could we do with it. And then they got Blake and I involved. And of course, we're going to bring what we do to the picture. And so we all got together in Little Rock, and we all kind of talked about what we were looking for. And Blake came. So she took the idea and fleshed out this whole world and made it so rich. And like the characters who were just like, this is the character and this is what she does. Suddenly, she's a real person. Blake brought life to it in a way that only a writer could. I mean, so once I read what she did, I had all these concepts of things I would like to do. I wanted the Vikings and this, that, and the other. And then, you read it and it's like, oh, wow. Okay. It's like, oh, this is like the first part, the first 20 minutes of a movie,
Yeah, but how many pages, how many parts of this? Because this obviously isn't just a one shot. There's going to be multiple parts to this, right? Or no?
Yeah, I can't talk too much about it, but it's definitely going to be more than one issue. And I'm going to let Mitch talk about that good stuff. So,
well, I mean, I would assume that since he's created a company, that he's going to have continuous product coming out.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, he's not just like, okay, I'm just going to do these couple of comics and we're done. You want to keep creating properties. And
I will say that this is called the Founders Edition for a reason, in that this group is very important to this, to how this has all happened, what's going on and to the future of it. So before it gets too far, and gets a life of its own, and the normie crowd picks it, gets into it, or whatever life these books will end up with. I mean, you never know. We wanted to start from where it all started, and it's like, okay, this is for you to get in on the ground floor of hopefully a next wave, and to solidify your ownership of it. You know what I mean? Like, this is y'all's. This is, you made this happen. So,
well, like, I'm looking at the pinups here, like the facial expressions. Yeah, and the reason I focused on this because I've noticed, like, when Kanan sends me pages, he does really good facial expressions. He can, once I tell him kind of the mood that we're wanting for the page, he does a pretty good job of getting that point across for me. And I had someone send me some interior pages for a book they were wanting to come on the channel to promote, and I'm going to let them come on. But I got to be honest, when I was looking at the pages, the guy looked real stiff. He was like,
yeah, It's
It's like you see pages, but the actual character it looked like he was a robot or something. His face didn't move. He's like holding, he's holding like a pencil, and it's just
yeah.
And it's like they look like mannequins that had been positioned, and I'm like, you just
like that.
yeah, but I'm like, look at every face here. Like you look at Nora. Let me go up just a little bit more because I want to get like I said, this is beautiful. Just not only just illustrated. This piece here is just so beautifully illustrated. The colors on them are fantastic. I'm a big color head, so like look at her face there. The Raven here. Well, I don't know who these two people. Maybe her parents or someone in her. But I mean, just yeah. But I mean, and then this warrior here. And this older guy with the torch, just you can like my oh god,
Astrid, my girl. That's her father is Torg, and that's Astrid. So she's kind of like the flip side of Nora in the other in the Viking realm or time period.
Now I'm doing some movie casting here. If I'd cast this character, I would use the gentleman that played Jeor Mormont from Game of Thrones. Yeah, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch when Jon Snow got there. He looks like that. He looks like that guy to me. He actually looks like him. So I was like, my God! But do you use photo reference when you're doing or is it you've done it so long now? I mean, you've got 20 years in the game. Do you actually can you actually see the images? Because Kanan says that I've noticed that sometimes he gets like imagination block and he can't think of something and then he'll take a moment and he'll think about it and he'll go, okay, I got it now, and then he'll start. He can create again. He can see the images. So
I like to do it's like in the movie Finding Forrester, where what's his name was teaching the kid how to write, and he was like, he said something that stuck with me. He was like, do the first one from the heart, and the second one from the head. So I like to throw down my imagination first, and get what I'm looking for down on paper, and then if I got it clear, I don't have to look for reference. But sometimes you want the lighting a certain way. You want, let's see. Let me hit Shinto Ketchup here. Nora is 4 pages away.
Because I heard Mitch saying that they were almost completed, so they'll be able to ship in like January. I think he said.
Yeah, Bass Reeves is
Bastard Reeves. That's him.
Yeah. Only a couple pages left to color, and I want to tighten up everything. And I usually like going over it with David Williams, the artist of it, and getting all making sure everything's tight and he's happy. And then I think they're gonna keep you updated on when this stuff's finished. I've had to put a little pause on it. It's been Nora's week, so I was hitting up doing, trying to be out here as much as possible, and I'm working on the issue 2 cover for Iron Sights. So, but that'll be done probably this weekend, and then I'm going to wrap up Nora and Bass Reeves first, because I think they might be doing a Bass Reeves week next, and I want them to have everything finished and be able to, go in. Knowing that book is done, Yeah,
man. So it's like, but yeah, you've done some of these videos, like I said, where I've seen you like coloring stuff, and I mean, God, man, I've said this on a few streams where I could take the same piece and give it to like 3 or 4 different people, and you all see things differently, and you shade things, and your lighting effects and everything. But what I just saw there, I was just, man, beautiful work. Did you when you did Jawbreaker's book 2, did you color that as well, or did you just do the art?
Yeah, no, I did that. That was a funny one because when I originally talked to Zach about it, we were talking about it as he really wanted to do one of those cheesy cereal box throwaway comics kind of thing, and from the 80s. And I sent him a bunch of pages from the Archie run of of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is from the, it was like an adaptation from the cartoon. So it was real cartoony. And I had some big bloopy inking and stuff. And I sent him that, and he was like, yeah, this is the tone of what we were going for. And as I got started, we started seeing more pages from John, and then he brought in the other, I forget his name, but the other guy did a great job redoing Zach's stuff from the first book.
Oh yeah, I saw the Jawbreakers remastered. Yeah, I saw it.
And then I was like, man, I can't crap this out like a cereal box comic, man. I got to do something cool. So it ended up being kind of this weird amalgam. Like we were trying to do this like fun 80s kind of thing, but I couldn't help myself from trying to bring the heat, on here and there. So it was a very different kind of thing. But yeah, that was fun. That was all designed to be very old school 80s flat coloring, but with a little flash, a little bit of extra modern stuff. But yeah, I wish we could have gone straight up like he said originally, just a cheesy, silly kind of thing. But then everybody would have been like, oh, what Kelsey's book? Crap that out.
Hold on. Let's see, because I see this is funny. Because I saw everybody's been sharing that image of Ethan with the Santa suit on, so I'm like, it's hilarious. But he says, is it possible to make Kelsey into Santana and Caesar into Santa? It would be a cool Christmas image. Well, we're definitely going to have the character Dark Santana. He's I already told Kanan how Way of the Gun, because I keep rewriting some of the stuff, and I wrote like 20 pages, and I was like, this is shit, and I threw it out. And then everything I told Kanan, he was like, why'd you? I was like, okay, so I'm saving it. I'm gonna save it, but I think it's a different book. It was but I told him I know exactly how Brand Way of the Gun opens up now. And I told Kanan, and he was like, wow. It's really dark at the beginning, and it opens with Dark Santana, and it's I think Kanan's he's excited to finally get to really draw Santana into the book. And I
refuse to look at it, man. You've sent copies to me, you sent copies to everybody, and like you make it available in your videos. I'm like, no. I'm not spoiling not a page.
Well, you know what? And I got so much shit for releasing it because people like, they're going to pirate the book and they're going to do this. And I'm telling you, and then an extra $5,000 since I released it. So
advertising. Like, I thought you should probably put out a good quarter of the book to get people to see what it is.
Well,
I'm like, I know it's going to be great. I want to wait.
So many. It's like so many. And it's taking so long, and you start getting people going, you guys are scamming everybody and all this kind of, and I was like, oh, I'm not scamming. Read this. Yeah. And so that quieted a lot of people. It's like when they go, oh wow, you really got a book coming. I was like, I told you.
But like, like with Ethan, I knew the book was coming out. With Mitch and Rooster, I know it's coming out. With your book, I know it's coming out. So I'm like, I got patience. I'm an old guy, man. I got nothing but patience these days.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and Kanan's like, I know this is taking longer than we thought it was going to take, but like, in the colors, that's the thing. We still got like eight pages in a cover to color, but they all look incredible, and I like the way me and Kanan ended the book. I like book one. I was just so proud of it, and I've posted the last page, so like we added 4 more pages, and like which. I just was so thrilled with, I told Kanan, I said, this is the way I want to kind of leave the first book kind of ambiguous. I want you, so like when you jump on into Way of the Gun, there's no confusion. We're going to pick it right. Now that I don't have to explain anything, we just going to hit you right in there, right in the mouth, right at the beginning. Awesome. And then so like, now that you've seen these characters and I just, oh man, that's I'm really excited for not only getting this, because I saw Mikey Woods. I wanted to answer your question. You asked about Print Ninja. That's one of the things, is I tried to, when I sent the last update out, I was like, the whole thing was, I was like, you guys have waited so long. even if it costs a little extra, maybe I could use an American printer and get the book shipped to me quicker, and that way we could, start fulfilling right away. However, when I got those quotes back, they were $3,000 and $4,000 higher than what Print Ninja can do. And so when I started looking, I was like, oh man, that's like an extra $4,000.
I thought Print Ninja was in the States too. Where are they?
They've got offices in the States, but the books are printed in. They've got, like, if you're doing small press, they said they have an office in Chicago that can do like small print run. But I'm gonna have to print like 4,000 comics.
Yeah.
So we've got almost 2,400 backers, and that's so. Print Ninja's quote keeps it. It's the one that I keep going back to. I was like, okay, well that looks like that's gonna be the people we use. So when we go to print, that it looks like it's going to be Print Ninja. So what I think I'm going to do, because we already had about 200 people that bought the digital copy anyway, so I'm going to have to give them. So what I think I'm just going to do is I'm going to do kind of like Ben Jones did with Asgard. He went to print and he just let everybody have it. So I think I'm just going to let everybody have it and, pirate it or whatever. But the people that got the physical copies, they're going to obviously, get it. But I'm just going to let everybody have it. You can read it or not read it. Yeah. But I'm going to let it. I'm going to put it, because like I said, I've got the whole book on my computer. I want people to read it. And, we're going to just
put a book number on there. Cause like I got 2 books from Ben and I'm like, there's no indication of where to start. I'm like,
yeah. One's issue 0, I think, and then the other one is the main Asgard. So,
great looking books though.
Yeah. Oh, they do. Yeah. Now it's just I thought they were good. So like,
I'm into them. I got a nice pile of Comicsgate books, and I need to read them and maybe do a review. I don't know. Can I do a review? I
was like, hey. Do it. Like I said, I've got Asgard. I bought both copies, and I was like, yeah. I mean, the print was great. I thought he did a good job with that. It just takes forever. However, like I said, and Mikey, I see you out there, brother. I don't know how else to do the books without going bankrupt. Like, I obviously, the part of having the money is to be able to use that money to fulfill not only the comics themselves, but then all the perks and everything, and you got to have resources for that. So
such a tricky game, man. That's why I still got my feelers out for the next evolution. I mean, this to me it's wonderful. But it's a lifeboat. There's just not the sustainability of it. I don't know. I've had this argument with Malin, but it's like, I mean, I'm not saying this isn't awesome. It's just been wonderful. But I think in order for everybody to thrive, for this to thrive, we need, like a Netflix for comics or something. We need the next thing, whatever I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm just a dumb pencil jockey. So but I know that it's out there, our next evolution, and how people are going to be able to produce books, and people are going to be able to buy books regular like they used to, and it'll be a whole other system. We're waiting to find out what that is. I guarantee it's coming though.
Yeah. Cause like, Amazon's got like print on demand, and some of this, like, there's gotta be a way to, distribute this material. That's one of the things, that, I wanted Kanan to, be able to work on Way of the Gun now. He's, to actually be able to, he just finished inking the She cover for, that I was great. It was fantastic. I reached out to Billy Tucci and his wife, Deborah, and, we worked out an agreement. So I am thrilled to be able to have, one of the 6 variants for Way of the Gun is going to have She on it. Oh. And, it was, like I said, it wasn't easy to make everything happen, but we came up with an agreement, which I think is fair. And, salute to Billy Tucci and his lovely bride. So I was just, but when Kanan, I actually bought the original art from Kanan for the She cover because I'm looking at it right now. I was like, it's hanging on my wall, but but he inked it and it just turned out.
Well, that's not seeing the light today until probably next year, right?
Yeah. And so we're not gonna. Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, we're definitely not gonna.
Geez, Antonio.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I'm showing the covers because, like, behind me is the Matthew Weldon Dawn Craven variant where she's pregnant. It's the Demi Moore cover from Vanity Fair when she was pregnant. Well, there's a reason because everybody's like, why is she pregnant? I was like, I've always said that the Cravens are going to have. I've got lots of stories with the Cravens, and they're going to have children. Yeah. So this is foreshadowing something, but they're just going to meet in this next book. And then the sequel to Way of the Gun is going to be called The Union. And that's when they'll actually get married in the Union. So that's, man, I got to have you color something for me, Kelsey, man. Cause I was like,
I'd love to color Kanan on something. Maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, dude. I was just like, I almost asked you to color the She cover, but my colors is like, no, I'm coloring the She cover. He's like, no, you better not give that She cover.
Ask him if he could spare something for Kelsey.
Yeah, because I was just like, dude, I gotta have Kelsey Shannon color something, but I think I don't know if you saw the final inks on the She cover. They look fantastic. I just
he works too, right?
Well, well, I mean, he did the way he did the cover. He actually did it traditionally so he could sell it. Yeah. And then, which is what I told him. He hired me to be his art rep. So once I started telling him, I was like, look, you need to do because he was talking about how to increase his income, from the art, because he was selling commissions and they were all like digital. And I was like, dude, I almost didn't hire Kanan like 3 years ago. I almost didn't hire him because that's all he was doing is digital. And I was like, man, I want to hang this art up on my wall and stuff. He was like, well, you can print it out. He's like, you can print out. I was like, who wants to do that, man? I was like, when like, you see on my walls, this is all real art, man. It's like I can take it out the frames and you can feel those like, oh man, look, that's real. Like behind me, hold on, let me see. There's that's a watercolor, ink by Sanford Green of
wow.
Yeah, dude. Well, when I had Sanford on, we got to talk. Me and and Sanford told me he'd come back on. I need to get him back on because I love Bitter Root. Bitter Root was such an incredible project. I thought he really poured his heart and soul into it. You could kind of tell. Although he did enjoy doing the Power Man, the Luke Cage stuff at Marvel and the Power Man and Iron Fist stuff, which is with David Walker, who he did Bitter Root with, but they, you can just see in Bitter Root that, it's set in the like 20s Renaissance, Harlem Renaissance. It's got steampunk vibes in it. You can just tell Bitter Root is so incredible. And then, about 6 months ago, it announced that HBO bought the television rights to it. Yes, I was like, I reached out to him. I said, hey, man, congratulations. He sent me an autograph. There was a trade paperback of Bitter Root, and I bought that watercolor from him. And there's like, so both, and then the other two pieces are both from Matthew Weldon. It's a Deadpool. And then, like I said, right there in the middle is Matthew Weldon's variant for Brand Way of the Gun. So
yeah, I love Sanford, and I didn't know about the Bitter Root, and I went looking recently, like, what's Sanford up to? And I saw that stuff, and I immediately sent it out to Mitch because I was like, oh man, if we can get Sanford on board for something in the future, that'd be great. I actually worked with him on Method Man.
We were talking about the Method Man comic did you color that?
Well, I did. I colored the cover, and then I did the gray tones. And Rob Haynes, I think, helped work on the layouts. That was a fun book. Yeah.
No, I love Sanford because he's a big hip hop head, and it was so funny when he came on my channel. He was wearing a DJ Premier shirt, and I was like, I love Gangstar, I love Primo, so I was like, I was like, that showed me right there. The fact that he had DJ Premier on his show, it was like it looked like it was a takeoff on like the Wendy's logo, but it had DJ Premier. Yeah, it was really cool, man. And it was like, man, I'm a big fan of DJ Premier. So it was it was really, really good, man. I was just
he's a real hustler. I got a lot of respect for him because he's one of those guys I try to keep an eye on because he's inspiring. He doesn't wait around for things to come to him. He makes things happen. And that's something you really got to do in comics, especially now. And Sanford's one of those guys that never waited, man. He made things happen for himself. And he's an inspiration. I love the guy. It's great.
And I was about to say, Zaid, hey, go ahead and drop the link to Magic Cop in the chat. I meant to do that earlier. You had asked me, and I meant to do that so you could drop the link to Magic Cop. I had the Diaz brothers on a couple weeks ago, and trying to help him shield a few books here, but also
you've been doing great, taking up the slack for Malin, man. It's been great.
Matter of fact, Art T. Bear will be on tomorrow, talking chrono mechanics. I think it is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The great Art T. Bear will be on, and I am really looking forward to talking to him. So
what's interesting, I caught a little bit of his show the other day, or he was on with Ethan, I think, and I remember Chrono Mechanics when he came out with that ages ago, and he was talking about how Chrononauts was aping that, and I remember when Chrononauts came out, and I was like, "Wow, this sounds so familiar." And then I thought about I'm mixing them up. What the hell was Chrononauts and Chrono? What the hell is?
Oh, okay. Mikey Woods has it. Here it is.
Chrononauts.
It says Quantum Mechanics was the OG name. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just but yeah. RT Bear will be here shilling a few comics tomorrow afternoon. So really looking forward to having that conversation with him.
I was obsessed over his inking when he was doing X-Men because I'm like, what is he doing? What is this? It's like I couldn't figure out how he was doing. I used to blow my mind when I'd look at like Tim Townsend, and I'm like, how is he doing this? It's
yeah, and that's the thing. And I had asked him to ink. I wanted him to ink the She cover. I was like, since Kanan had done it, we had the pencils for it, and I showed it to Art, and he was like, "This is great, man." And I said, "Can you ink it?" And he had said, "Yeah," but then the campaign, he's like, "I'm so busy." He said, "I don't want to hold you up." And Kanan was like, "Well, I was going to ink it anyway, so I'll just go." And what Kanan did, it was his inks over. Oh my God, he's been really busy. Also, before we get out of here, guys, please, we're in the last few hours of the Galactic Rodents of Mayhem campaign. I'm not sure if we can get Mr. Gilbert Deltrez funded, but that book is incredible. Kanan did a variant cover for it, featuring the characters from Brand. Let me see.
I think it was like a little less than $1,000 away yesterday. Hopefully they're way closer.
Well, I know when I looked earlier, he still needed about 4. He still, because he's trying to raise. I wish he had set and I told him now, I wish he had set it a little lower, and that way he could at least go into demand and then get the rest of the money he needed. Because that's one thing I will say. When I've talked to a lot of these streamers, and we've done these live streams, I've talked to some of these guys, and they'll set they don't have a presence, and they know they need $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, and they'll set it at like $1,200. And so they'll get the 1,000, and they go, I don't have enough money to print. And I was like, yeah, no shit. I was like, that's the thing. So
do your research. You need to follow the guys who have all done it. Your Clint, Sweetcast, you, Ethan, Zach, all these guys have done it, and they're doing it again. Malin, you just follow what Malin's doing, and you'll be okay. Malin is pro, and he's making it look easy. I mean,
oh no, Mitch, we got to get you in here on the. I got to get you on the stream because I was like, man, I really like what you're doing with Allegiance. I was like, Mitch Brightwise is in the chat, and yeah,
fun.
Yeah, man. I just like, but yeah, I'd really like to pick your brain as well, Mitch. So we need to set that up. So, yeah. So I'm just, Kelsey, this has been a thrill talking to you, brother. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. This has been, it's like I had so much fun. All the, all the comic pros I've had, I get to become like 12 again. It's, and that's the thing, like I said, me and you are about the same age, but I've been a fan of your stuff for like 2 decades. So,
I appreciate it, man. I'm still a fanboy. I still do the same thing, man. And I get such a kick out of just being here and just the love and joy of all this stuff, the excitement that we have for it, and just making something cool, man. I love it.
I've got so many I've got to set up. There's a couple of other people I reached out to for interviews. One of them was Dan Fraga. Dan Fraga Boom. Yeah, Fraga Boom. He said he would come on, and so I gotta reach back out to him and see when we can set that up, because I'm a big, like, when he was on Black Flag and all that stuff, it's like, man, I just want to talk to him and
do some research, because he was the director on the Ricky Gervais, those animated shorts where they
that you show on HBO and stuff. Yeah, I love those.
So he's in animation for a while. The guy's got a big career, lots of stuff to talk about. He's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so I didn't know that, because I watched those when he was on HBO.
Yeah.
Those are great.
I was like, "Dear Frank," and I'm like, surely that's not the same guy. It is.
But okay, so Kelsey, how can people, like, if they want to reach out to you? I see you got the @ComicKelsey. Is there any other places that people can like reach out to you, and if they want to talk to you and hang out and smoke doobies and all that good stuff?
Yeah, well, I do. I'm doing videos, but I do a live stream with Anna the Star Wars Girl, John Malin, and Cecil's from
the Jack Show, baby. Yeah.
And we're doing the Jack Show. That's every Thursday night.
Is Cecil going to keep doing that? Because I keep hearing people saying that he's giving, I heard him saying about the moving to Florida and getting that job and all that. But I really, I hope he still does streaming and stuff like that. I don't know about 9-hour streams, but
he can't give this up. This is like recharging the batteries time. So he can go do all that, that number crunching, and then come hang out and unwind a little bit. But I'm wondering if he's, I don't, who knows? I've had to clean up my act a little bit. So we'll see how that works.
No, I caught, what was it? It was a couple of months ago, and you had a really spicy stream on Cecil's channel, and I caught like 20 minutes of it. I said, I'll come back and watch the rest of it later, because I was writing, and then I came back and he had took the stream down. He was like, "No, I had to, man." He was like, you had exposed some deep dark secrets.
Well, I just I get a little drunk, and we're live. I mean, this is, to me, it's just like party, and we're all hanging out, and nothing's serious. If somebody's taking something seriously, then they're not with the program. We're just having some fun, letting off steam, and that's been my whole big thing. Why, like, I don't particularly engage in a lot of the fighting. I almost feel like the USO. Let me just hang back and like hang out with everybody, pop a beer. We can hang out, talk, unwind a little bit, and I think it's important, things like the Jack Show and just your show. And Elliot and I, before he got off Twitter, we were talking about doing a purely comics thing where we just
he and I talked about that as well. We have kind of a concept. We want to go and do like old comics from like the 80s, the 70s and stuff, because and just like, because we just want to talk about the work. And I know Kanan wants to be in on something like that too, where we just take like old comics and like, this is Conan, John Buscema, and just break those down and just and actually show what's good work versus what's a lot of I really
definitely do that. Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm just excited. There's so much stuff coming up. Can't talk about everything, but it's just, man, Kanan's got some really good opportunity. I know he's going to be working with Ethan on some things, and it's really cool stuff coming up. I'm excited. It's gonna, 2020 is going to be an incredible year for all of us. It's going to be an incredible year for Comicsgate. I love this community and just want to.
It's going to be year one, man. 2020 is going to be year one. We're going to be off to the races. Even though this is all the preamble to the next wave, man. I know it's going to be big next year. I just know it.
Yes, man, me too. Oh, man, brother, I thank you again, man. Love you for coming on. This has been incredible. This has been a fun stream. I just really, enjoy your work and enjoy your videos, and I felt like I had a fellow kindred spirit, so it's just
I'm right.
Southern boys, we got to stick together, man,
Right.
But all right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. My thanks to the great Kelsey Shannon for joining us here today. Please check the link in the description. Check out Nora's Saga. Check out Galactic Road to Mayhem. Maybe we can get Gilbert over the hump there. Check out Magic Cop. Just check out there's a lot of cool comics on Indiegogo right now that could use a little light on them. And hopefully, if you got a few extra shekels, please check those books out, and then get some support behind them. At
the very least, maybe you can help just get the word out. That helps.
Yeah, tweet it out or something. You might show it to someone on your timeline that might actually want to back it if you don't want to back it, because it doesn't hurt anybody. That's how we got it. So, whew. But with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. And if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and right here on this YouTube channel, everywhere is at Akari Press. And if you type in AkariPress.com, it will take you directly to my Indiegogo campaign for my comic book series brand with the phenomenal Kanan White. We're on Teespring. We're on Amazon.com. The links to those are in the description. Kelsey Shannon, guys. Nora Saga. I'm out.